All right, we'll bring you that in just a moment, but let's have this discussion in the interim. The Border Management Authority said to be hosting on Wednesday a conference to explore national security in the country, and you can see joining us there is Commissioner Mmemme Mogotsi, who's with us via our video link. Great to have you on the program, Mmemme. Thanks very much indeed for making time. I mean, this is such a broad issue that's said to be unpacked in this conference. Perhaps help break down for us where you anticipate to be starting.
Yes, good morning to the viewers. And just, to highlight that the importance of border management is one of the essential parts to our national security, economic growth, as well as social stability. So we saw it very much important for us to gather minds in this conference to come and drive solutions and, discussions about the developments, about technologies, latest trends, and products that could be available to assist the work of border management.
Right. And, whenever there are these kind of conferences, I mean, notwithstanding how important the issues are, often the concern is that it might be nothing but a talk shop. How are you going to ensure that whatever is discussed once this conference begins actually translates to material change, especially along the country's borders?
Yes, you'd know that, the Border Management Authority has just recently been established, and we're in the process of procuring, a number of systems and technologies that would assist with the work. So this will definitely not be a talk show. We are bringing solutions. We are looking at different trends that we need to employ, to look at servicing and looking at, ensuring that we deal with the challenges posed by human trafficking, organized crime that is happening in the border environment. So definitely from the discussions that we'll be having, we are looking at solutions, and we are bringing in private sector, we're bringing in the government to come and help us to look at, private-public partnerships that could be embarked on to ensure that, the issue of border management is effectively dealt with.
Right. You speak about government involvement. I wonder how much of that is more specifically political involvement, especially because a lot of the concerns to do with our borders, at least in this part of the continent, has to deal with politics, and there may very well need to be a political solution to the issues. So the question becomes, to what extent is that voice being included in these ongoing discussions?
Yes, definitely. It needs to be driven from a political point of view, and that is why we have our Minister of Home Affairs delivering a keynote address, being the main speaker at this conference, because border management, yes, needs to be tackled from that political view, where there needs to be investment into the programs of Border Management Authority. We have been building a case, making a variety of presentations to the portfolio committees, to National Treasury, to ensure that there is some kind of resourcing and funding that is allocated to the Border Management Authority. So through this conference, we'll look at the broad aspects of what deliverables need to be employed on for us to effectively manage the borders. And in this regard, we are also building a case for us as the Border Management Authority for funding, to say, without funding, there's really not much we can do. So we are advocating as well to the government and to the Treasury, National Treasury, to say, please, if we could be allocated enough funding for us to be able to procure the necessary technologies, the body cams, the drones that we have been advocating for, to ensure that we utilize them for securing our borders.
And how much, Mmemme, roughly speaking, are we talking here? Just for people who don't really have a grasp of how big this issue is.
It will be a lot of money if you look at the presentations that were done by the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority for this financial year. The BMA was allocated an amount of just around 300 million. But for us to effectively manage Border Management Authority with the 71 ports of entry, you'd know that we have ports of entry across all the provinces, of which 51 of them are land ports, We have 10 international ports that we need to be operating on. We need 9 seaports that we are operating on. Currently, with a staff component of just over 2,600, we need quite a lot of money. The business case that we are building is just more than, the 300 million that we had received. We are looking just something over $1 billion that could, just set us off for this coming financial year, in the next financial year, and then maybe looking at motivations in the next other financial years for the increase of that money to be allocated to the BMA.
Sure. And, I'm sure you'll agree with me that in order to be effective in your own work, you kind of need your counterparts to meet you halfway. I mean, it doesn't help, for example, for South Africa to be functioning well, whereas the issue isn't necessarily being dealt with just on the other side of the border. My question becomes, how much of a multi-stakeholder involvement is going to be taking place here with some of your counterparts elsewhere to ensure that whatever you implement on this side, at least is met halfway elsewhere?
Yes, definitely, you are right, Ayanda. We wouldn't be able to successfully manage the borders without our counterparts. And in this regard, our counterparts in the country, meaning other law enforcement authority, the South African Police Service, the South African National Defence Force, but more importantly, in the border environment, we have countries that we need to be managing the borders with. And in this regard, recently we have been engaging our counterparts. Last year, we saw a joint action plan signed with the government of Mozambique. Just last week on Wednesday, we signed a joint action plan with the government of Eswatini, and we are looking at implementing more joint action plans for us, to look at the infrastructure as well in our border environment, looking at, sharing of information, looking of sharing of resources so that we effectively, implement a program that assists with the national security of South Africa.
All right. Nova stating how important this is. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us ahead of that conference. Mmemme Mogotsi is the Deputy Assistant Commissioner for Communications with the BMA.